And it's a fight where we all have a stake in it. In the guiding words of AARP founder Dr. Ethel Percy Andrus, what we do for all. Our movement that started as a fight for survival has become a story of resilience. This is progress paved by heroes in the past, present, and into the future. Now more than ever, it's time for all of us to stand up, speak out, and claim care for ourselves, for our LGBT community, and for our future. A living history of the LGBT movement, powered by AARP. Learn more at aarp.org/pride.
Hello, everyone. Hello, everyone. Thank you for joining.
There are no untrainable dogs, just
forgot to turn off the video. All right, there we go. All right, I'll try this again. Hello, everyone. My name is Kenya Hutton. I serve as a deputy director here at the Center for Black Equity, and I want to thank everybody out there for joining us for a very interesting conversation today. We're really going to be talking about COVID-19, isolation, and senior citizens within the LGBTQ population. You know, we just went through COVID-19. We're still going through COVID-19. But one of the things that's not really talked about often is isolation and how that affects various communities, but especially our seniors. So today, what we have is some great panelists that I'm going to introduce. First, I'm going to bring up the CEO and president of the Center for Black Equity, my boss, Mr. Earl Folks.
Hey, how are you doing, Kenya?
How are you doing, Earl? Thanks for joining us today. The next person I'm going to introduce is Ms. Cassandra. Ms. Cassandra is a representative from AARP. How are you doing, Ms. Cassandra?
Doing good. Thank you for having me, Kenya.
All right, no problem. Thanks for joining us. And last but not least, this is the first time I'm actually going to be interviewing an entire family at one time. So everyone, please look out for her. Dartois, Marcia, and Janice. Welcome.
Hey, Kenya.
Hey, welcome.
How you doing?
Good. Thank you. How are you?
I can't complain. It's all good.
It's all good. I know that's right. So I really just brought us all together just so we can have a conversation about this topic, really raise awareness and let people understand some of the things that's going on. If you guys wanted to share a little bit of your stories about experiences or people that we can really talk about the issue and then, of course, talk about what's happening, what's being done to address it. So ladies first. So I'm gonna go over to Dartois, Marcia, and Janice to go ahead. Any one of you, whoever wants to go first, please, if you can, give us a few stories or some experiences, especially during the past year with COVID, about isolation. Have any isolation you might have experienced, anyone may have experienced?
Well, for myself, I can say that it was boring. And I felt like I was going to lose my mind because everybody was gone out of the house. It was just me and the TV. And I didn't know how much more TV I could watch during the time when COVID first hit. And I couldn't do the things that I usually do, like go out, shop, hang out with friends, have pride. It gave me time to think, and I did not like it. I did not like it. What about you, Grandma? Okay, you're gonna stare at me.
You guys can get on.
Go ahead, Marcia.
Well, I pretty much got past it. I got over it. Isolation is pretty much. I put up with it right now. But as I sit at home and I can't get out. You can't get on the bus. I can't get on the subway because I'm really nervous. I don't want to go out there just because I had the shot. That don't mean they didn't say get sick. I just kind of stay on a low key. been in the house. My son been in the house, been isolated. We get out, go to Deep Creek here and there, but we do it as a little small group with our family. Get my mother and my uncle out. But other than that, I'm just hanging in there, trying to stay close to my mother, make sure she gets the things she needed to be done. Take care of the bills and make sure everything is all there. But pretty much like, hey, yeah, like my mother always say, stuff happens, so you got to be prepared for that.
Awesome. Thank you for sharing that with us. Earl, let's talk to you. Have anything you might want to share with the audience?
Well, the last year has been a difficult year for all of us, but particularly I live alone, so I'm used to being by myself, and so I didn't feel a sense of isolation. I felt a sense of disconnection from going out maybe once a week for a drink. And what I found that many of my friends, especially my older friends, and so those who retired, going out once a week, or they had a certain routine, and the routine was maybe they go out to the fireplace on Thursday nights, and maybe they go out to the Whole Foods and on Monday night, and they couldn't do those things, and they were the people who I was most concerned about, because those are truly isolated. I kind of seek my own solitude, so I'm fine with that. But when people were their normal routines were disrupted, the things they did to interact with their neighbors and friends was disrupted, and I found that I was calling people because I hadn't heard from them, and they were basically very, very depressed. Some of them had started drinking more than they normally would because they didn't have anyone to drink with. Anything, that was part of their routine, was having a drink once a week. I think that COVID-19 has certainly shown us that we have huge parts of our population who are really easily isolated, and they live in a very fragile environment. And I know a lot of my friends, young and old, but particularly the older ones, had some mental health issues. They felt like they were going crazy. They felt like they were losing their mind because their routines were broken. And I think we need to spend more time investing resources so that people can feel connected to society even when there's a pandemic. And I think that's the greatest challenge, especially for LGBTQ folks who feel isolated anyway. And many of them don't have family members. I have a lot of family. I have people calling me. I have friends. And so I was able to keep a semblance of a community around me, even if it's a little virtual. But some people don't have that.
Right. You just touched on something real quick about resources. What kind of resources do you think could be or should be available to help bridge that gap of isolation?
Well, for a lot of people who are homebound or are seniors, I think one of the resources is having someone call them at least once or twice a week just to check up on them and say hello. I always remember when I was younger and I was working for a department store in Atlanta, and I was working in customer service, and there would be this cadre of older people who would call once a week to check on their account, and like, you haven't bought anything in your account. And I realized after a while, they didn't call to check on their account. They called to have someone to talk to. And I think that still holds true today. I think most people, the LGBTQ seniors especially and elders, they feel disconnected to the fast-moving, youth-oriented LGBT world. And once you get a certain age, you're not supposed to appear at any bars anymore. You're not supposed to appear at any social gatherings. You kind of put out a virtual pastor. And I think we need to, first of all, reconnect people to a community that is vibrant and is active, and also make certain that people have their needs being met, and by checking in with the phone banking and checking in with folks to make sure their mental health and their physical health needs are being taken care of.
Thank you. I'm going to bring in the family again, just to talk about that. What do you think about what Earl was just saying? Would that have been helpful? Especially you, Marcia, because Marcia, you really hit the nail in the head. And I wrote some notes down, like, you were scared to go on public transportation just because you got the shot. Didn't mean, you had you had very valid fears. What are some of those things that Earl mentioned? Would that have helped?
Yeah, it helps because like he said, Earl said, he live alone. I live alone too. You know, I mean, I have my son, but I'm a single person. You know, so you know, I don't have many people I talk to as friends from the LGBT, you know, from back in the day and stuff like that. So you know, I pretty much understand where you're coming from because I'm pretty much a loner too, unless I'm with my family. That's my outing. You know,
Right.
if it wasn't for them, these two women here, if it wasn't for these two women here, I probably will be insane. You know, I would.
That's not funny. That's true.
It is. It's true.
It's true.
Without us going away and like here and there, the Deep Creek here and there, you know, it helps a little bit, but at the same time, I need a little more because I am kind of closed in. You know, I don't talk about a lot of things that goes on in my mind. You know, I just keep it in because I don't have that many friends. A lot of my friends, they may, you know, move away or they passed and stuff like that. You know, I'm from the old school too, so I understand.
I got you. I want to bring in Cassandra to see if Cassandra has anything that she may want to add to this conversation.
Sure. So it's interesting as Earl was speaking, I was thinking about something I heard from a gentleman. He said for the African American Black community, our lives are centered around food, family, and faith. And in the midst of COVID-19, really all of those things were taken away from us because we couldn't be around family. You know, we couldn't go out to eat. We couldn't congregate around the kitchen table. And we definitely couldn't go to religious service. And so I think all of those things, you know, coupled with, you know, everything that was going on around the racial unrest, the social justice movement, were primed for social isolation for a lot of us. And I think it was almost like a perfect storm. And Earl also talked about mental health, you know, and a lot of our mental health was compromised in the midst of this because of course, all of this stuff that was happening just in the world. And then now you couple it with being isolated. So AARP, you know, we've done a lot of research and, you know, we teamed up with the Center for Black Equity on the Black LGBTQ community study, where we did find that there were a lot of people, you know, particularly boomers, where the majority of them said that they were single and about 50% lived alone. And, you know, again, I think all of these things were, you know, a perfect storm for social isolation. And we don't really talk about the impact, the negative impact of being lonely.
You know, you just touched on something. First of all, anyone have anything to want to add before I go on my tangent?
Can I say something, Kenya?
Absolutely.
I realized that I was, despite enjoying being in my own company and dealing with things virtually, when that insurrection took place on Capitol Hill, January 6th, I can go on my balcony and see the Capitol Dome. And I was watching the news, and I would go out to see. I would hear the ambulance and the police and all the military stuff, and I actually got frightened because I felt totally helpless. Like my country was, something was happening blocks from me. I can see the Capitol. I lived in the Capitol, and the fact that there was insurrection. And some of those people who were doing the basis of the insurrection, you know, were walking down the street in my neighborhood. I could see them, you know, because they don't. Obviously, these are people who don't look like they belong in the neighborhood. They're walking around with fatigues on and all kinds of weaponry. I actually became frightened because I realized if one of them shot in my window, shot me on the patio, who would know?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah, you know what? I'm sorry, not to cut you off, Kenya, but again, Earl, I felt, you know, very similar feelings because I lived in Midtown Atlanta, and so when Rashard Brooks and Ahmaud Arbery were killed, and there were a lot of protests going on at night, I could hear the helicopters and it really just disturbed my spirit and my sleep. And so when I would hear the helicopters, I knew that there were protests happening not too far from where I lived.
Wow. And the same in DC. If you hear of a helicopter in DC, something is wrong somewhere because there's no flights allowed over DC.
Yeah. They sent a notice out letting everybody know they were going to be doing some testing on Monday. So if you heard the helicopters, don't be nervous. But I couldn't imagine just hearing it every night. I remember being on the phone with you, Earl, and hearing the police cars driving going on in your background, which was crazy to me. And you also, Earl, I believe, also mentioned something else about the layering of the issues, right? We already have to deal with being Black. We have to deal with COVID. Then we have to deal with the social unjust that was happening. Then if you've been in the field or you've been around, you had to deal with the mental weight of HIV tearing our community apart. And now you got COVID. It was like so many things, and mental health really took a hit. One of the things I tell people is like, I don't think we're really prepared for the PTSD that's going to happen. Once we get to the other end of this, and you touched on it, Earl, about like the overdoses. Like we're seeing a rise in overdoses. We're seeing a rise in domestic. We're seeing a rise in a lot of things within our community. And when you really get into it, it's the core of it is really like communities are just like at the breaking point, right? Mentally, we're at a breaking point. I had a conversation earlier today with another group, and we discovered, especially with the overdoses, what's happening was people were overdosing, and then their friends was going and getting the same exact drug that killed their friend and taking that drug and overdosing themselves. So it became like a cycle of, I think we had about 4 people that followed the same cycle, and it really came out of COVID. Just want to share that piece with you all.
You're absolutely right, Kenya. I'm sorry.
Please.
You're absolutely right. Even, there's a lot of research out there about social isolation. And I think what people don't understand is they're like, oh, you're lonely, get over it. But there's like a deeper layer to it. Social isolation, there's research that shows that there are negative mental and physical impacts to social isolation. And it's similar to you smoking 14 cigarettes a day.
Yes.
You've got, out of social isolation, you've got mental health issues, depression, anxiety, suicidal ideation. You've got sleep issues, increased risk of stroke, dementia, all of these things. And we don't talk about it in a manner that, that helps people to understand that what you're going through is, bigger than I'm just a little lonely.
And then, if I can add one more thing, one of the things that concerned me during this whole isolation period was that I wasn't so much concerned with myself, but I was concerned with my father, and his wife did get COVID, did come down with COVID, but I have a sister who's on dialysis. And she had to go every other day, COVID or no COVID, she had to go for her dialysis. And I know another a woman, an older woman who has breast cancer, who had to go for her treatments. And you worry about, because they're so vulnerable. I was in my house. I snuck out of the house once a week at weird hours to go grocery shopping. But these people had to go out. They had to be in the world because it means that part of their health. And I was so fortunate that I wasn't one of those people. But I know people who were in fear of going to get getting their dialysis, because if the person had COVID, or the driver that took them there had COVID, they could die.
Yeah. I was one of those people, Earl, that had to go in the hospital and have multiple procedures done in the middle of COVID. And I will tell you, it was very terrifying for me to have to go into the hospital and see, sections of the hospital taped off with clear plastic. I had to stay in the hospital because I ended up having surgery. And I remember the last day I was there, they sent me down for x-rays. And when I came back to the room, they had already converted my room to a COVID unit. And they were just waiting for me to go. Like, the ventilator was in my room, the tape was in my room, and I got nervous when I came in. I was like, what is this for? And they said, oh yeah, all the other units are filled. We're converting this one now. So it's terrifying. I can't imagine, what it was like for some other people, some other folks with other issues. Like I had my little 1 or 2 issues, but folks had other health issues that had to like go outside and go into the hospital where you're told all the images you're seeing of the hospitals overran and people are dying and people go, and now I got to go to the hospital. Yeah. Anywho, so.
I have a question for the 3 young ladies, because I've been waiting for this moment to see them all on television and see them all on the screen for a long time, because they have such a rich history of being part of our community. But how, as you age, Black Pride, for example, Black Pride has a lot of young people that come there. You don't see as many older people
Anymore.
You're right. So how does Black Pride and other organizations there are Black Prides all over the world, how do we reach out to those who are older? What kind of programs or what kind of activities should we have to bring out our older, seasoned elders who have so much to contribute to the richness of our community and our history? It's a shame that they're like almost put out the pasture. And how do we reverse that?
Well, I say, to get us out, I guess you got to have something like an oldie but goodie.
You have to go to
You have to
where
go
they are.
where they are, where we are. You have to reach out to us. You have to.
So where do we go? Where do we go to reach out to you?
But I think it would be a good idea if someone came to the senior center, talking about the senior, came and had something going on, a function or whatever. No, it don't have to be a party or dance. But just come and talk on certain days that we have meetings and things come up, and come to the senior buildings, because I lived in the senior building that caught a fire on Capitol Hill. And I think that's when we actually saw as many older people that was in the light that no one knew about it. They were still hiding. But and it brought out who they were to the people that they lived with. And so we weren't the building I was in, I'm trying to say, is that we didn't have a hard time. We know who was who. We showed each other respect, and we just lived in a nice family setting, So it is much better than it used to be. Some people used to hide from the day they were born until the day you put them in the ground, but it wasn't that kind of building. I mean, if you were a lesbian that wanted you to know that's who she was. She wasn't criticized because of it. We let you be who you are.
Oh, I'd like to live in that building.
Yeah. Until today, even though we had to move, we're separated because of the fire. Then we all still get together. And now that the building has reopened, and a lot of them are moving back, and they're moving back because they knew they were comfortable in that area and the surroundings and the people, that they didn't have to hide. And it's in this day and time to hide when you're 70, 80, and 90 is not too good, But we didn't have that problem.
Kenya, I hope you're making notes of this, because what we have to do. We have to go by that building.
I wrote 2 notes. So first of all, thank you for sharing that.
That's a wonderful story.
Second of all, I was going to say, of course, Earl's going to take the opportunity to ask a Black Pride question. Of course. But I also did write down a note. We have to come to the housing facility. And I think actually, and this actually warrants a whole nother larger discussion that we probably have time to really talk on today, because you hit on a couple of things, Ms. Dartwas, about seniors living in the closet from birth till they put them in the ground. What is that like? So I might be circling back to you for another panel discussion soon. Oh, so keep that in mind. But I do want to jump to Janice really quickly. Janice, being who you are in your family, clearly you have a close-knit family, right? What's the isolation of some of the older folks in your family a concern of yours?
It was, because like my grandmother said, her building had caught fire, so she already had a traumatic experience. All of our family heirlooms got burned. So from her coming from dealing with that to moving into a new place, and all she kept saying is, I don't have anything. During that time, we were trying to replace the items that she had lost. So, and part of us trying to replace the items that were lost, it was us all spending time together, going out shopping, going out eating. It's like we had a weekly ritual. We was like the Golden Girls. We came together exactly like the Golden Girls. Everywhere we go, like she said, it's us three always together. And when that stopped, it was like, well, where do we go? What do we do? Grandma can't stay by herself. She has to come and stay over your house, Marcia. So she wasn't able to even get comfortable inside her new home that she just left her old home from the fire because we were scared to leave her alone. Because she has, like you said, the mental health issues. As Ms. Cassandra tapped on, we deal with dementia. So she has good days, she has bad days. And we still had to take her to doctor's appointments. That stuff does not stop the seniors. So when she was going outside, my grandma would go outside with like 5 masks on her face. And I'm like,
I don't blame her.
I was saying, don't be a mask grandma. I would too.
We couldn't understand nothing she would say. She'd be like, she's like, I'm not taking this mask off. So we have to deal with that. We're slowly breaking her out of the 5 mask thing. Inside of the car with the windows rolled up. So I mean, it hit her. She was hit 3 times, really 4. Fire, losing all of our family heirlooms, pictures and stuff of her mom, moving to a new environment where she don't know everyone that lives in the building because, like she said, her old building, it was a family knit place. They were really all close, going to the senior center, what did y'all go? Shopping trips and all of that. They were broken up. So she had friends. And a lot of her friends also passed during that time from that building because they were dealing with traumatic issues and they were also seniors. So losing your place, losing your family heirlooms, losing your friends, losing your sense of independence because she couldn't be by herself anymore because her issue was progressing as well. So it's like she basically lived with us, and that was just the person who came and went.
And I want to go home so bad, but they won't.
But that would be traumatic for anybody of any age to go through all of that. That's a lot.
Yeah. And then COVID. And then COVID. Yeah. Anyone that's watching, if you have any comments that you want to post, please post them. I'll get them up on the screen, or any questions for anyone that's on the screen. Please feel free to do it. I was so into the conversation, I forgot to do my pitch about people can send comments to me. Go ahead, Cassandra.
No, I was just thinking, about the things that AARP were doing during the time of COVID. So one of the things our DC state office did was they actually partnered with a food organization, and I think there are about 4 senior centers in DC, and they would have meals from restaurants delivered to the senior centers. I don't know if it was once or twice a day, but they would have, homemade fresh meals. So that way, along with the meal and trying to combat the hunger issue, they would have at least somebody that they would connect with on a day-to-day basis.
Okay.
Cassandra, I have a question for you. Why? I'm sorry. That's what I told you, Kenya, not to have me on this. I have a question for you. Why should a LGBTQ senior become a member of AARP?
Well, you know what? Over the past maybe 5-6 years, we have really been doing a lot of work. So AARP wants to show up and is showing up as an ally to LGBTQ folks. We've had great partnerships with Center for Black Equity, Human Rights Campaign, the Legal, SAGE, and done a lot of research, really trying to figure out, how to meet the needs of older LGBTQ people, and helping to do and advocate how we can so that everybody can live their lives, as their whole authentic self with dignity, because we heard earlier about people living in the closet, or living their life free and then going to an assisted living facility, having to hide their identity. And nobody should have to live like that. Nobody should have to deal with, any types of abuse or bullying because of who they are. And, AARP's motto is what we do for one, we do for all. And that's inclusive of the LGBTQ community. And we have a lot of staff in-house, myself, Dr. Julie Bates, Nicole Cordelai, our new Chief Diversity Officer, Edna Kane Williams.
Who's a great ally. She's a great ally.
She's amazing. That are really, really, really committed to the work and to doing it right. And we also will not leave out our trans community either.
Oh, yes.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Oftentimes when people are doing the work, we want to focus on the L and the G, trans community. Our brothers and sisters are an integral part of our work as well.
Thank you.
Yeah. I just saw a comment here from Woo Star. I'm trying to get it up on the screen for you. Oh, there he goes. Oh no, went the wrong place. Where he said that fire was so terrifying. I lived on top of Harris Teeter and ran over immediately to see if I could do anything. Woo Star, thank you for that.
I love.
Go ahead. Go.
I was at work. I was leaving an outing that I was doing when I was working for Aveda up in Upper Marlboro. I was coming from that way, just driving across the 295 bridge. And I saw smoke up in the sky, and I was like, something's on fire. So as I got closer, I noticed that it was my grandmother's building that was on fire.
My God.
So I immediately stopped what I was doing, drove directly over there to her to find her. And in the midst of all of that, I lost my mind. It was so hard to see that fire. And then you find out that there was a older senior still trapped in the building after they done put the fire out, and no one knew that he was in there.
For 7 days.
Oh, my God.
7 days.
Oh, wow.
7 days. Wow. And then just to look at her face as she just looking at the fire happening, it was also traumatic for me as well, because just to see the look in her face, I was so hurt. And then just to look at the other seniors and see that everything that they had was gone. It was such a traumatic experience. So I know, I'm glad he ran from Hearst Teeter down to the apartment building, but it was really hard to deal with.
Yeah. Thank you for sharing that. It's been a lot of things happening. Some of us individually and as a community. That during this time, just over the past year and some change, that's really been difficult. And I remember the fire, Janine. I think I was on phone. I was on a FaceTime with you at one point. And I remember you. Yeah, and I didn't know what to do. So I'm very happy, first of all, to see you all as a family unit and to see how you all supported each other, through the fire and through this thing, this little thing called COVID. Right. I'm very, it's what's the word I'm looking? It's heartwarming. It reminds me that, people still are people, and they're still our communities, and our families still there. So it's very good to see that.
It's also affirming. It's affirming. To see three generations is just amazing.
Yeah. It's amazing.
Really amazing.
You know?
When I saw you all at Pride one time, it almost made me want to cry, because I had a great uncle who was gender nonconforming, and he's long been gone, but to have three generations and that you've all gone to Pride, Black Pride together, that's like amazing. That's just really amazing.
Like us. Remember, Kenya, we was all in coordinating colors on accident.
I don't know how that happened. We all came dressed in the same shade of like a shade of purple, pinkish, a shade of pink. Coral. It was coral. Oh gosh, this has been an interesting conversation. We've been all over the place. But I want to talk a little bit. I want to just divvy back a little bit on this topic of mental health, right? And I'm going to ask Cassandra, hearing all of these things, and I know you guys have all the research and the infrastructure, what services are available through AARP for seniors that might be experiencing, whether they realize it or not, mental health struggles?
Indeed. Well, we have state offices in everywhere. State offices, DC, Puerto Rico, Virgin Islands. And so each of those offices have individual engagements and people on the ground, and they're volunteers that are working to help combat, a number of issues, including social isolation. But our foundation also has a program that's called, let me get this right, Connect to Effect, right? So Connect, CONNECT, the number 2, Effect, AFFECT.org. And there's a host of resources on there for people that may be experiencing social isolation or have family members that are experiencing social isolation.
Can you put that website one more time?
Yes, we can put that on our system.
Connect, number 2, Effect, AFFECT.org. So Connect to Effect.org, and that's through the AARP Foundation. And social isolation is one of their big initiatives right now, along with food insecurity. And so, we understand that this is a big issue, right? And so even, as we're talking about all of these things, we also need to talk about, something Kenya pointed out is this COVID recovery, right? So we're moving out of this stage, even though we still know that people are still getting COVID, people are still dying, people still are not getting vaccinated, so the risks are still there. But as life is opening up and people are moving back to some sense of normalcy, we have to understand that there was great great mental health, consequences as a result of COVID, economic devastation, especially in our community, right? And yes, and then also, you have people that long haulers, right, that had COVID and are still experiencing the effects, and we don't know what it's going to look like down the line. And so these are all things, and we all know, I'd be remiss if I didn't say that our community, Black LGBTQ folks, Black and brown people are always impacted by everything in a more severe form. And those are things that we really need to start to be mindful of and create strategies for what do we do next. I too don't feel like we are ready for the mental health fallout.
Two points. I have a friend who is in his 50s, got COVID the first time, was literally scheduled to get his vaccine, I think that Tuesday, got COVID again like that Sunday, or the schedule was that Sunday. And it kind of like sprawled into a whole bunch of other health issues where he's still in the hospital right now. I can't imagine what the mental health burden of that is. This was an individual that was everywhere all the time, going 100 miles per hour, and then boom,
Oh,
COVID came in.
yes.
You got through COVID the first time, and then COVID came and hit you this time, and now you're stuck. Yeah, that's just yeah, a really tough situation. The other question I have for you, Cassandra, is how can individuals get involved in some of this, to give their opinions, be involved with some studies to help the work of AARP around seniors, especially around everything we've talked about today?
Absolutely. I think, first of all, just visit our website, aarp.org. If wherever you live, you can just Google AARP DC, AARP California, and you'll be able to get to their page, and there are opportunities for you to volunteer. And volunteering comes in any type of form. It could be anything from an event to advocacy, to being, on an executive council. And so there are plenty of opportunities. And I'd say to everybody that is LGBTQ identified, please volunteer. Please, fill out the surveys when they come, because your voice is so vitally important, right? Niport always says, no data, no justice.
Mm-hmm. I love that. It's true, though.
If we can't prove that there's an issue with data, then we'll never get, the backing for advocacy, funding, programs that our community needs.
Oh, see, Cassandra, you're going to have me go on a tangent, because that's something I've been, Earl knows, we don't show up in data. So that's why things happen the way they do. And that's not making it right. But, I've had many conversations with folks, not Earl, but just folks in general. They've said to me, oh, our data doesn't say this. One of the other things I do is I do a lot of discussions and sessions on substance use within the queer community. And, when I bring these topics up, they're like, oh, our data says that's not happening. And I'm like, what data are you using? It's happening. But
we're not counted.
We're not counted.
We're not in the data.
Exactly. And it kind of puts me in a stump where I'm like, I know what's going on, because I'm seeing the people overdosing and dying, but the data is not reflected. So it's thank you for saying that part about, it's important to be part of these studies and surveys and everything, because it helps us in the long run.
Absolutely. That's why I'm so proud of the work that we're doing at AARP and the partnerships with, Center for Black Equity, so that way we could do research, on our community. We can continue to learn more and explore and, build our advocacy.
Yeah, I'm gonna ask you a question real quick before I go to you, Earl. If someone doesn't have access to a computer, right, or is not internet savvy, is there an 800 number or something folks can call?
I will get that to you.
Okay. If you get that to me, I will share it on our network, on the Center for Black Equity Network and all the other networks, so folks can see. But in the meantime, again, visit aarp.org. I'm going to roll it on the screen again for anyone that don't know it. Go for it, Earl.
Well, I want to say two things. The first thing is that I can attest to the relationship that AARP has developed with our community. If we don't have a relationship, then it's easy to think that AARP doesn't care for us.
Yeah.
But we have a relationship, and I know they care for us, and the data that they're producing around our populations are critical for our survival as we continue to age. And one of the things that struck me is that I know I've lost a lot of older friends who have died during COVID-19 all over the country, all over the world, actually. And one of the things that I'm afraid of is that we're losing our history. And when I look at the 3 generations of women in front of me, it's like you have so much history that can enrich our community, enrich young people, to let young people know that there is, a lot of young people don't believe they're going to live to be old.
I was going to talk about that. Yes.
And we need older people to remind young people that once you stop going to the club at 40 years old, you still have a full life ahead of you. And one of the things that the Center for Black Equity is going to do, and Kenny will hold me to it because I'm saying it publicly, is that we're going to start interviewing. We're going to start our prides around the country, start interviewing our seniors, our LGBTQ seniors and to hear their story. What was it like to be in DC, like in the 1940s or 50s? What was it like, to go and party in the 1960s? What was it like? Because I think younger people think, as when I was young, I thought I invented gayness. Because what the way we're doing it, we're the first out generation. But we didn't invent it, and we made it perfection. It's something that was already there. But people need to know our history, and the people who have the history are our LGBT queer seniors. They have it, and we've been ignoring that, and that's going to hurt our community in the long run if we don't start capturing those stories.
Oh, absolutely. One of the things I know, go ahead. Sorry.
The lady from AARP, have you all ever had an article or anything in your books about the gay life? Because I know there are a lot of older people that's really read y'all magazine and would love to have some kind of feedback for their life now as they get older. And because they do get your books.
I agree with you, and you know what? We're growing. We're in our infancy in this work, but that is something that I will pass along to the magazine folks.
Yeah, because I did AARP magazines all the time. I never seen articles in there about, seniors, something for us to read about our history where we come from. Because we were made it. We started it out in the 70s. I'm from the 70s generation. So.
Yeah, and you know what? We may have had
and the other side and stuff like that. You need to give us something to look forward to read, so we can see where we can come out.
You're right.
We ain't changed. We just stay home a little more. We still the same.
Well, one of the things I was going to say is that we also have done other things. Dr. Nicola has been instrumental in Outfest and sharing LGBTQ stories and sponsoring and promoting, movies and different types of events like that to gain visibility and to share our stories. But there's always an opportunity to grow.
Right.
Yeah. AARP has definitely, almost been a staple at DC Black Pride. Like AARP is always there. I honestly, for a while, I can't remember AARP not being around. Because AARP has been, supportive with a booth, sponsoring discussions like this. So yes, to all of that. You're gonna say something, Earl?
No, I'm just it's especially as I crash my way through the senior citizenhood. I want to believe that my life doesn't stop when I stop working.
Right.
I want to believe that I'm still able to make contributions to the community. I might not be, twirling around at some club, but I might be taking a nice, comfortable seat at a bar someplace every once in a blue moon. But I think we have to end the practice of putting people out to pasture, so to speak. And when they reach a certain age, and what happens, our community becomes, you're invisible, and then you become visible, and then you become invisible again. And we got to stop that. That's just wrong. Because I didn't have any role models when I was coming out. And because I didn't know where they were. Because there were no young people, there were only young people around, people my own age. And the fact is, the matter is, you three, well, Janice, you're a role model for a different reason. But your aunt and your grandmother, they're role models. They've lived this thing.
Yeah.
And I'm going to keep them visible.
And they're going to keep, one of the things that
we've been there.
One of the things I know over time, but I remember my group of folks that came out couldn't imagine being gay and over 35. Like that was a cutoff limit. And it's so interesting that, now I am 35 plus. I see a lot of people now reaching 35 and they're saying the same thing. And I'm like, I thought it was only us that couldn't see ourselves as older and gay and open and just living life. So yes, again, we're laying it heavy on you three. It's so great to see you all living authentically who you are, open, and as a family. Like that's like that's not what we normally see. It's not what we're normally told to expect. So to see you all, not only knowing you all, but see you all on camera right now, talking to everybody about your experiences, you never know who your presence is going to affect. Right now, just sitting here is going to enlighten somebody in some corner of this country that's going to say, oh, wow, I can grow up and be great. Wow, I can still have my family. I can still do all these things and still be happy. And be, I wasn't trying to say that.
As they say,
Well, someone in the background who's in the background owes me a drink. That's all I have to say.
Uh-oh. And on that note, Cassandra, anything you want to share with the audience that's watching today or watching sometime in the future?
Well, you know what? I'm so grateful to be a part of this.
She froze.
Uh-oh.
She froze.
Yes.
Oh, no. Earl, are you frozen too?
There we go. Oh, there you go.
I'm listening very, very, very still.
We need your voice. We need your experiences, so, definitely reach out to your local AARP office, take a look at some of the research that we have. We've got, a great canon of research now on LGBTQ folks, including, like I said, the one I mentioned earlier, the Black LGBTQ community study that we worked with Earl and folks on. We just really are trying to do our best to help support our community.
Awesome.
And I'm a member of the community, and so it's personal to me. So when you have somebody that's a part of the community that's doing the work, we're going to get it right.
That's right.
Yeah.
That's right.
Yeah.
That's right.
Yeah. You wear that burden, you have to get it right.
Something in the articles, huh? Articles in the AARP.
We're going to work on that, and I'm going to send it to you.
Well, before you get to that article, we're going to do our own article.
I just want to say again, thank you all for taking time out of your evening to join us. This has been great. I really enjoyed the conversation. I know we said we were going to talk about one topic, but the conversation kind of went in another way. And I think it went the way that it was supposed to go. Sometimes I'm one of those people that I have my little notepad and I try to say, okay, it's going to happen this and that and that. It doesn't. And that's okay. But I think we covered the information. It's great to hear the resources happening at AARP. I'm so happy to see you, Mr. Twa, to know that you're here and you're still doing well. Everything from the fire all the way to where you're at today, Marcia. So happy to see. Always happy to see you, Marcia. And thank you for sharing your pieces about like being scared and getting on the public transportation was a fear. I don't think people think about things like this. Getting on the bus was a fearful thing for a lot of people. Thank you, Earl. Still, right. Thank you, Earl, for hopping on and giving your wisdom and your oversight of the entire community. And thank you, of course, Cassandra, for coming and bringing in, letting people know that there are resources and there is an organization out here helping anyone. Earl, I know I gave Cassandra last words. Earl, the family, do you guys have anything else you want to leave the viewers with?
That's what we're going to call them for now, the family.
I'll just say, if you have members of your family that are seniors and are LGBT part of the community, talk to them, bring them out. Don't let them sit in the house. Sometimes they're just waiting on the invitation to come out. Sometimes you have to pull them out. And that's what I do with my grandmother. Sometimes she's like, I'm not going there. Somebody might see me. It might know. Out here, and your hair looks good. I mean, just bring them back into that state of mind where they most had fun at. And I do that with my grandmother. because, like I said, she has dementia. So house music, anything that you can do to put them in a happy state, do it.
Well, we're gonna have an old school party next year. That's a definite.
Yeah.
And she will be there.
Earl, any closing thoughts?
No, this has been wonderful. I knew this would be wonderful, and it's inspired me to continue some of the programs I talked about. Is like recording our history before we lose it. Well, I don't want any other people writing our history but us. And in order to do that, we need to capture it while we still have it. And we have so many wonderful stories around the country to capture and to write about. We have a vibrant, energetic, creative, experienced community that younger people need to see that.
Yes.
Yeah, absolutely.
And thank you, Kenya, for putting this together.
No problem. I'm going to say, part of the reason why I really enjoy doing these virtual discussions is because it is our history being documented, and no one can come back and say, oh, that didn't happen, because here it is online for everyone to see. And I think that's important. So the more stories or people that want to share their stories, if I can, I will definitely give an opportunity to share your story. Because as I'm reading some comments on being a mate on the side, it's really helping a lot of people that are watching this. So again, thank you all again for joining us this evening. This has been great again. And everyone stay safe and dry if you're in DC.
Oh, yes.
Yes.
All right.
Take care.
Bye, everybody.